when I mentioned earlier about, closing down and they're not buying into it, no one said that the ball was going back to Sanchez and Brighton were attacking quite easy. That's in Brighton's left-back position, right? So Manchester United, 2 of them go and close down, but did you see the distance, Sam, between the two that are closing down and the midfield and the back 4? There's 25, 30 yards between each of those units. And to be fair to Brighton, they moved it really well along the left-hand side. Then it comes into Lallana. He puts it out to Solly March. He comes in again. No one goes to closing down as his left foot. It's not a bad save from David De Gea, actually, to be fair, is it? It goes low down to his right-hand side. He's tried to push it wider.
Right? You think get enough angle on it.
Exactly, yeah. But he's still he saved it. No one reacts, and then Pascal Gross comes in and taps it on the far post. But that is all because Manchester United have no belief in what they're trying to do. None whatsoever. And just before that, Sam, I'd said to you and looked at the stats. Before that goal, Brighton had 9 shots at Old Trafford. That's totally unacceptable. And they're not buying into the closing down side.
They've had 12 shots now.
There you go. 12 shots, 3 on target.
12 shots, 3 on target, 18 touches in the opponent's penalty area, and only 38% of the ball. Manchester United have had 1 touch in the opposition's penalty area. So
can you see any different? I mentioned about, Ralph Rangnick. Can you see any difference from this Manchester United?
I think they're worse.
Because is it that everybody's talking about the attitude?
I just don't get it.
But the easiest thing to do, when we played under George Graham at the Goodison, we were a closing down team. You know this Genga pressing and counter pressing, the people think it's only just been invented. It's a load of nonsense.
Pochettino brought it over.
Oh, yeah, sorry, he brought it over for Espanyol, wasn't it? Yeah, that's right, invented it there. Liverpool were doing it in the mid-80s with Ian Rush, right? It's the easiest thing to do, right, to be organised and closed down, because as long as you get your structure right and you get your timings right, it can be quite fun to do it, because you're putting the opposition under pressure in their final third, and if you nick it, you're in on their goal. There's no belief or cohesion in Manchester United there at all.
It was one of the things that we saw from Arsenal, actually, in the game on Friday night. The fact that they played so high up the pitch, caused loads of problems. Jesus dropping into midfield, running back, darting to the right. His heat map, you saw him, it was all over the place, pressing right from the front. And I think that was really key to their first 20 minutes, because that first 20 minutes they were blistering, weren't they? I mean, I think if they play like that for most of the season, then you've got a fantastic team on your hands.
Well, I think he sets the tone, Gabriel Jesus, because someone who's as good as him, who wants to work that hard, is great. And he gave Anderson and Guehi in that first 20-25 loads of problems. When it was coming into him, he was getting himself on the half turn. He was playing little nicks around the corners, 1-2.
Very skillful, quick feet.
But the thing that gave Palace more of the problems was that Zinchenko was playing obviously left back, but he comes inside, he comes inverted, and even though when the teams are set up, it's Thomas Partey and Granit Xhaka as the holding mid. Granit Xhaka was playing more basically as an inside left, and sometimes he was actually further forward than Gabriel Jesus. And Palace couldn't, at that time, they couldn't get to grips with that. Do you know what I mean? Because Zinchenko goes in there and overloads midfield, so Arsenal dominate there. And the other thing that was good, which Arsenal slipped back into in the second half, was the passing was very quick and incisive, and the second or third pass was always forward. He was always looking to split through the line. So that's why Palace struggled in that first 20, 25 minutes, because Schlupp and Doucouré, they didn't know who to go and pick up. They didn't know whether, to go and pick up Granit Xhaka. They didn't know whether to go and pick up Zinchenko. So that caused Palace problems. And then when Arsenal scored, and you think, right, then you got to kick on again, then they just they went a bit passive for that sort of 5-10 minutes afterwards.
And that allowed Palace to start just changing the game slightly. And the way that they changed the game was by getting the ball to Joachim Andersen and bypassing the midfield, because they couldn't get through Partey. When they did try and play their way out from the back, they couldn't get through past Partey and past Xhaka. And as you were saying, it was a bit congested in there because Xhaka and Zinchenko were wandering in. So as a result of that, they were giving it to Andersen. He was going back to doing what he did before, the long diagonals. Last year, he was the most successful long passer of a ball. And those big diagonals in behind the Arsenal defence actually started to cause problems. Mitchell and Zaha benefited the most. Palace created a couple of big opportunities this way. Edouard's header, Eze's one-on-one, 2 key chances. The worrying thing from an Arsenal perspective was how often they actually got troubled by that, I think. They didn't adapt.
Well, they've got to make their minds up, because he wants them to go and press. But what was happening with Andersen was, it was basically, he was just launching it in behind Zinchenko, because Jordan Ayew started to become pretty dangerous, didn't he? And he was getting in behind him, causing a few problems. So then you've got to make sure that if you're going to do that, as soon as you'd have been briefed about Anderson, because we're all in like this stats era, Sam, aren't we? So they would have known. So it would have been right. As soon as he gets it, if you're not going to close net put on pressure, then Arsenal's back four then it just has to drop off. All you do is you just drop off 4 or 5 yards. So it doesn't go in behind you. I actually thought on the other side with Ben White, I actually thought he handled Wilfried Zaha quite well. I thought, he got booked in the early in the second half where he came and spanned in his Zaha and got in behind him. But the other player who did really well for him was Bukayo Saka, because he wasn't great going forward in the first half, but what he made sure was when Zaha was getting 1v1s and he was tracking back Mitchell, he made sure he was the first one to him. Palace come back into it, and you need your goalkeepers to make big saves. And exactly what Aaron Ramsdale did.
Absolutely. I was surprised they didn't make changes any earlier, bearing in mind that when they did make the changes, Arsenal, Nketiah came on, disrupted Anderson and Gurhey. Tierney pushed up on the left, and that allowed them to finish off the game. Overall, I thought they showed great character. Palace had a terrific home record last season, so it was never going to be easy.
Well, they didn't concede the goal in their last 5 games.
They were brilliant defensively last year. So in order to come away with 3 points, they had to work incredibly hard.